Yeah, I'll coordinate with her next.
Okay.
I didn't realize. I thought the scheduled one is cool. I think because it lets people
Yes.
put a reminder on YouTube. So that's why I was using that. But if there's an issue with it, we can figure that out later. So yeah, I'm happy to do it. I think we are. Let's see here. Okay. I think we are live.
All right. Welcome back, everyone, for another week of the Dynamo Coin Tech Update. It's been an interesting week. Quite a bit of time was spent on a new mining algo, which we'll get to in a moment here, but this is going to be a little bit of a shorter, most likely, update than the last one. So to start things off, why don't we talk about the simple web-based game for Game Jam that's being built?
Yeah, so we have this Bracky's Game Jam that's got 5,000 or 6,000 people still in it. About 1,000 people dropped out already, but that's pretty typical. And we've discovered this JavaScript game library called Melon Js. It's really cool. There's a lot of production quality games that are built in it. It's quite robust. And we've created this lunar lander prototype. So it's probably, you can think back to the 80s. I think the Atari 2600 or something like that had something where you have this little lunar lander capsule, and your controls are basically rotate right, rotate left, and thrust. It's very physics based, and it's very sort of interactive and tactile. It's pretty cool, actually. It's sort of falls in the category of simple genius because it's just frustratingly hard, almost like Flappy Bird or something like that. So we've got quite a few mechanics already. I've got a test website set up, and it's pretty cool. Works on desktop and mobile because it's pure JavaScript. It'll be touch compatible, and I think we're going to use this as a billboard, so to speak, for Dynamo. We'll obviously spam our name. We'll probably have the coins that you collect have like the Dynamo logo on it, and it's sort of the first simple entree into simple gaming. The other cool thing that I can do is put it into the metaverse. We have this arcade console machines that are in the the metaverse in Unreal Engine, and I can actually make it be playable on those consoles because it's pure JavaScript. So that was another sort of interesting demonstration of technology that I was thinking of doing with this. But
yeah, it's the perfect game to have be in the kind of a retro arcade console where you just walk up to it and it's simple controls.
Yep.
But it's got that fight, that initially unintuitive fight against gravity. So hopefully it keeps things engaging and interesting. And yeah, I can't wait to see the first playable version of it, which, when is that going to be? It's Sunday morning, I believe. We have to have that done by.
The submission is due, Sunday. I think it's Sunday afternoon, but yeah, the submission is due Sunday afternoon. Okay. I've already set up a public server and put a very basic version on there. I'm going to spend another 3 or 4 hours this evening working on it to set up the coin collection, the refueling, and the win condition. So like what pad you have to get to win, and I would say tonight we could have like a little proof of concept where you just go in and start playing.
Right.
Obviously, we'll add some menus and options and the advertisement, stuff like that. But yeah, let's have something tonight that people can mess around with.
Excellent. Fantastic. All right. Well, let's talk then about the proprietary mining pool.
So to address all of the issues that we had with the YIMP stratum, I produced a C++ based mining pool. It's been running, I guess, 6 or 7 days now without any issue. It is extremely simple installation. There are 3 files. There's an executable file, there's a settings file, and there's what I call a web pack. Instead of having, say, a whole directory tree and having to install a web server and all that stuff, I basically wrote a web server, and it loads this single file, which is the web pack, that contains all the HTML and CSS. It actually has a full zip of jQuery and a whole bunch of other graphics and stuff like that. So basically, it's just 3 files that you need. It runs on Windows and Ubuntu. I haven't tried 20. I have tried 18. It seems fine. All the source is pushed to our GitHub public repo if somebody wants to build from source. And there are binaries for Windows and Ubuntu also pushed. And so if people are interested in running their own pool, I strongly urge them to use this version. The YIMP Stratum, as we know, has significant issues and should not be used. So we're hoping to get some people in the community to start running these things and giving us feedback. The user interface is very bare bones. Clearly needs some some enhancement. So if people can start to use it and say, hey, I want to see these stats or those stats or whatever, I'm happy to work on it and enhance it.
Is this ready for Ubuntu 20 or 18, or which version?
18. I compiled the binaries on 18. That's what's on the binary repo. I don't have a 20 box. I guess we'd set one up, but I don't see any reason it wouldn't work on 20. There's no library dependencies other than curl, and there's no specific dependency. So as long as you do like an apt-get install, you're gonna get something that's compatible. It should be fine. So
great. Maybe I'll play with that too. All right. What's new on the HTML web wallet?
So the developer that's been working on this a couple of days ago said that he was done with the initial prototype. I have not had a chance to look at it yet, so I think that we'll be fielding perhaps a small group from the community to test this out and give feedback. Obviously, we want to test it on a wide variety of platforms and browsers, mobile, desktop, all that stuff, and we want to have a bunch of people send and receive coins and get their balance and all those other things. So, I think just based on my schedule for the next week or so, I think it's better if we community source the testing and feedback on this.
That's initially going to be on a test net. Is that what you said?
No, I think it's on mainnet, and it's probably fine to be on mainnet because it's using the same backend API that's used by the current web wallet, as well as all the other stuff that we've built, the Discord NFT bot and the MMO bot, all the stuff that we've used to create the hosted wallets. It uses that same API. So I think that part is very safe.
Okay. Yeah. And there's no security issues with because people have to import their seed phrase into it, right, for testing.
They would, and there may be security issues. I have not reviewed it for that, so I would say only use coins that you're willing to lose. Right? Okay. Yeah.
So small balances. All right.
And I'm happy to, we can send foundation coins to people if they need 5 or 10 coins, we can send them for testing. That's not a problem.
Okay. All right. Well, great. We will get that organized then. Okay. What is happening with the new mining algo? That's going to switch tomorrow, I believe, right?
Tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. The first of 13 or 14 algorithms will go into effect. They are scheduled on just random time points, if something like between 3 to 5 days each or something like that. The final one, I think, is 34 days from now. I'm not sure that we're even necessarily going to get to that one because I'm immediately starting work on the memory hard algorithm. So, I'll probably be done with the testnet version of that this weekend, frankly. So we may not even get to the final one before we hard fork for this new algorithm. But yeah, this new algorithm will be much more friendly, let's say, to GPUs. It involves much less branching. So high-end CPUs like a Ryzen 59 series will be okay on it, but things like Pentiums and any kind of Intel really is gonna really be a dog on this one. But it'll bring much more parity to what the cost of a card is versus the hash rate, roughly. High-end NVIDIA still has a problem, and we're going to solve that with the memory hard algorithm. But yep,
it's a step in getting things better on the road to getting them even better. Okay, yes. So what's the purpose of the steps then? Is that for the difficulty adjusting or what?
Nope, I'm concerned that CPU miner developers may unroll the algorithm. So it's remotely possible that someone could build a highly optimized version of a miner for one specific algorithm. So by switching it up every 4 or 5 days, I just like exponentially made that amount of work harder, right? Like somebody's going to have to hard code 13 different algorithms in about a month. It's just many hours of work, and with the end result only being that we're going to hard fork, in the next, let's say, maybe 3 weeks, probably, and completely eliminate the ability to CPU mine anyway. So the idea was just some deterrence, because obviously we have to publish these algorithms in advance, and that as soon as we publish it, someone can start to look at that, break it down, optimize it, unroll it, and make an unfair, if you will, miner.
Okay. All right. So that will happen tomorrow. Everything's set. People just need to have the latest version of the miner and the latest Algo text file, and that's
yes. It. Yep. Just get the algorithm, the Algo hash Algo text from the production binary repo on GitHub. Overwrite your current one, restart the full node, and it will go. I know that there was some talk in some communities about trying to force a hard fork, which of course, look, this is crypto, and that's always going to happen. And I've had similar discussions in the Ethereum forums. When people are unhappy about a change, there's always this idea that you're going to do something. And frankly, people are fine to do that. Just realize that that the exchanges, which are really the off ramps, right, and the pools are going to move to this new algorithm. So if someone does hard fork and you end up on that other chain, the exchanges are not going to recognize your coins. So you just need to be aware that you're going to be mining, essentially a fork of Dynamo.
Dynamo Classic or Dynamo Cash, Dynamo Cash SV.
Yes.
Okay.
Too.
Right. All right. And then let's see, there's also a memory hard mining algo. Is that something you were just kind of touching on already, or is this something else?
Yep, that's it. So I've published a Medium article last night regarding what that algorithm might look like. It's still a work in progress. Like I said, I probably won't really start the coding until this weekend. There's a couple of things. So one is that it's much more like ETH hash. So there's a concept of a large block of memory where the algorithm selects sequential bytes from that memory. In this case, the memory is contemplated to be 3 gigabytes, and the sequential read is contemplated to be 128 sequential bytes. So that's where the memory hard part comes from. And it would be really difficult to CPU optimize anything like that, because GPUs, particularly high-end GPUs, excel at big blocks of memory. That's what they're meant to move tons of memory. And that's also where the LHR comes in, right? So the LHR algorithm looks for these kinds of sequential memory accesses, which is what Ethash is all about. It has 64 rounds of 64-byte retrievals each from the DAG. So that's how LHR detects that that something is happening that's quote unquote mining. I changed that up a little bit to maybe evade LHR. I don't know, and we'll still have a programmatic proof of work algorithm. So there'll still be the hash algo text file. We're just introducing a new opcode that will make that 128-byte block read from this 3 GB. In this case, a hash block essentially. It's not even really a graph. It's just a block. I don't know. You could call it a graph, but anyway, it's a big chunk of memory that's got essentially predetermined data in it based on a seed. There has been some discussion in the community this afternoon regarding the requirements to run a full node, and I understand those concerns. Right now, the requirement would be that you would have to have this 3 GB pre-allocated in order to be able to validate blocks on the full node. I did design it so that there is a seed block. So there's I think it's a 96K or maybe 32K, I can't remember. But there's a small seed block that forms the basis for the larger 3 GB data block. It is possible for me to design the derivation of the larger block from the seed blocks in such a way that a miner could say, here's the nonce that I found, here's the hash I found, and here's a hint as to how to get to that one, and then using that information and only the smaller seed block, the full node could derive, if the hash was correct or not. That the algorithm that I proposed last night is not possible for that. It's way too sequential.
So are people concerned that so this is going to take 3 gigs of system RAM for a full node?
Yes.
Or okay, could it also just be less than that and use a page file?
So it's possible, and part of the design of the full node will be that at the epoch switches. So the 3 GB block is currently contemplated to be recalculated every 10,000 blocks. So on 1.1 million, 1.11 million, 1.12 million, whatever. So part of the design will be to pre-calculate that well in advance, because you don't want to be pre-calculating it when that first block comes up, because there's going to be a big stall in the hash rate, and the whole chain may stall. Right. So it is completely deterministic. You can pre-calculate all blocks out for all of time, all hash blocks out for all of time. So it's possible that you could read it from disk. I don't know. I mean, if what you're trying to do is save money on a small VM, you're going to get killed on the IOPS anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really know how much money you're going to save letting it page.
I mean, and how long is it until 4 gigs is basically just kind of the minimum standard? It's probably just not that far away.
Yeah. I mean, now to be clear, this algorithm does not contemplate having the hash block size increase. It is fixed. Unlike Ethereum where the DAG size increases, this is fixed. So the requirement will go up. Now,
what's your thinking behind having it fixed versus variable?
Well, I personally feel that there are still a number of 4 GB GPU cards out there, that deserve a second life.
Right.
And and there's a number of people who want to be able to mine using 4 GB cards, and they're currently stuck on things like Raven or Litecoin or whatever, right? So, so this gives those guys a chance to have another coin. That's all.
Okay. In the case of ETH, how quickly is that growing? Like, when do you think it'll get to the point where a 4 gig card won't work for ETH, assuming they have POW for the next 5 years? Like, when do you think?
Oh, it's already gone. It's already.
So for ETH, a 4 gig card won't work at all anymore.
No. Yeah, ETH is almost 6 gig now. They're approaching the 6 gig limit. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Their 8 gig is 2027, I think. So
what about then for Raven? Do you have any idea when it'll
no, they have a much flatter curve. I don't think they're hitting 4 gig for many years. Yeah.
Okay.
Their thing is much flatter. So.
Interesting.
So that's the only thing that we need to think about is if we want to, do we want to enable things like, a Raspberry Pi to run a full node? I mean, frankly, even a Raspberry Pi 4 probably has.
I thought those had 4 gigs, but maybe I'm wrong.
8 gig even.
Is it 8? Okay.
I think it's 8. Yeah. So I don't know. But it's a valid point.
You just about can't buy a phone these days without 6 gigs or more, right?
Yeah. So
I get it. I get it more for the GPU side than the full node side, but
Yep. So the concern is, do we want to support lower end virtual machines, versus some of the higher end stuff. But right now you can run a full node on like $10 or $15 a month. Raven passes 4. Okay, so next year, yeah. Interesting. So then we'll get all the Raven miners over here next year. Pretty good. So right now, a full node probably costs, like, you can run it on a T2, almost T2 Nano or T2 Micro, which is like $10 or $12 a month. The new version would take like a T3A Medium, which is like $27 or $28 a month. So it's 3 times the cost, but on a small cost basis. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. I'm open. Okay. If there's a big desire to have this thing run on smaller hardware, I can redesign the algorithm. Makes it a little bit more mathematically complicated because you have to be able to derive it, and I will have to use probably have to use a DAG or some kind of graph in that case. Right now, it's not really a graph. So
I thought you were going to say you're going to have to use a slide rule.
I hope not.
All right. Well, is that pretty much it then on that memhard algo?
Yeah, only to say that if I can get testnet running this weekend, which I'm relatively confident that I can, we'll be requesting testers to point cards there, check out the new miner, and if things go well, like next week, we could potentially hard fork to this something like the week after. So
okay,
we can pretty rapidly do this. There's not a lot of risk to this. Again, the cool thing about the algo is that because it's virtual machine based, we can kind of change it however we want. We just update the text file and push it out. So
without a fork required or a hard fork anyway. Yeah.
Now in this case, there will be a hard fork. You will need to download a full node because of the whole graph generation.
Right.
Thing.
Right. But after that, and we don't have the VM running anyway yet, right?
Nope.
Yep. Any updates on that, by the way?
So I do. It's all very technical still, but I found a very cool 8086 virtual machine. I know last week when you and I were speaking about the compiler and the opcodes and using the Z80 and my trials and tribulations of finding some compiler from even the 2000s.
Right. Yeah.
Z80 is just not. It was a poor choice. So So I did find an 8086 virtual machine interpreter, if you will, in C++. It's very well tested. It's been around since like 2005. It's got a full IBM PC emulating on it, and people have run all kinds of software on it. So it's like really, really heavily battle tested. So I was really happy to find that. It is an 8086 only, so it doesn't have things like, you know, VTX extensions or other stuff like that that the 8286 or 386 might have. But frankly, for what we need, I think 8086 is way more powerful than anything that we could possibly need for our smart contract virtual machine. So the only thing I would need to do is extend it to recognize 256-bit wallets, and then start to plug it in and play with it. So I did kind of mess around with it a bit. It seems to work well. So I'm cautiously optimistic that I can start to integrate that in. The other thing that I thought about was using a JavaScript virtual machine, only because JavaScript is so accessible, right? So many people know JavaScript. The only issue that I'm having there is how to charge gas, right? Because in order to make it so you don't have a runaway program that crashes the chain, each instruction has to cost something, and there has to be a limit to what you can pay to run the program. And JavaScript, it's like line by line. So A equals 10, B++, whatever. There is a bytecode, but the VM that I found has a proprietary bytecode. Kind of struggling with how to like charge per bytecode because it's an intermediate language, and still working on that piece. So those are the two sort of competing things in my mind about how to do it. Definitely heavily lean x86 though.
So getting back real quick to accessibility, if you go the 8086 route, then how would you compare that VM, based on that to the other mainstream ones like Ethereum's VM?
Well, Solidity is it's kind of like a Java-ish language. So I mean, because that's the front end that you program in, right? Solidity, which it looks a lot like C or Java. So we would need to produce the same kind of compiler, and in that case, we would use some kind of open source C compiler. That's the next step that I'm looking at is, how do I get a C compiler that generates only 8086 code? Because most are optimized for, many more extensions than just the 8086. So I gotta find something that's like that. But then you could just write C code, and it would be very similar in that case.
Okay. So it wouldn't necessarily be more accessible than it would just be similar.
It wouldn't be more accessible, right. No. Okay. To make it more accessible, we'd have to use something like JavaScript.
Right. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Which I'm still like toying with. I just need to figure out how to charge gas. That's the one thing. So, yep.
It'd be funny if you built something that used Scratch.
That's Scratch. Right? Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's it. I don't see any questions. So I think that pretty much wraps it up. Yeah. I'd like to thank everybody for the testing they did. A number of people put quite a lot of time in, and, those people have lives and jobs too, and it didn't go unnoticed. So thank you to everyone who helped out, and even outside of testing, of course, as well. Thank you to the community for being positive and contributing.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
Till next time.
See you later.